tal? It's Mike Cortez. I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the production for my newest single, Home by August. A lot went into this that I think is kind of a little below the surface. There's a lot of influences in my life that I tried to fit into this song to kind of be a demonstration and an example of everything that has kind of made me into the artist that I am. For example, the way I started off this song and the whole base of this song is this guitar sample that I got off of Splice. This is how the raw sample sounds like. Just all I did was pitch it up. This is how it sounds pitched up. And obviously that's what you hear in the song. It also came with this second part to the sample where there's a trumpet. Or two trumpets, rather. The reason that sample stood out to me is because, I mean, as someone with Mexican heritage and who grew up in a Mexican household, that's always been a big part of the music I've listened to is guitar and trumpets and the mariachi sound. And I love mariachi music. To me, that's the greatest music. And so I knew I had to include that into the song. I had to have that be the bass. And when I heard that, it just stood out to me. So obviously a big part of the song was going to be rapping. Because for a long time I've made mostly rap music. And a lot of Mexican music, including mariachi, doesn't have drums or something you can really rap on or something that's meant to be rapped on. So I wanted to include something a little more in my influence. So I decided to go with a little more of a reggaeton type pattern for the drums, as well as kind of a rap influence. So I found this snare loop. And that's a pretty classic, like, reggaeton snare pattern. But I wanted to make it a bit more rap sounding. So I chopped it up. And this is what it sounds like after I chopped it up. Moved some of the snares around a little bit and just kind of reorganized it. So it's not exactly like the classic dembow pattern, but it's close enough and similar. And it's also a little closer to like a rap beat. I also wanted to include some sort of percussion in the background because I feel like that's something that's super big in Latin music is the percussions, the shakers, the güiros, the bongos, everything. And that's something that kind of rap music doesn't necessarily have. So I wanted to include that somewhere in the background. And I found this sample. It's kind of a bolero type pattern. And together with those snares, it gives like a really, really cool natural sound. Like it's not what I feel like hear in modern music. It's a very natural sounding sound. And that pattern actually goes along with the guitar pattern. If you listen to it, and then so when that drops, when that comes in, I start rapping, right? But it's not necessarily a drop. Like the beat hasn't really hit yet. And I wanted it to keep progressing and getting kind of building up. So I didn't immediately come in with the kick. I wait another, a couple bars, and then I bring the kick in. It's literally just the most basic kick. All I wanted was something that was punchy and that would really hit you, but didn't stand out necessarily too much as its own sound. It's mostly bass. It's a very bassy kick. That's what it sounds like. And when I added that all together, now again for the pattern, a classic reggaeton dembow pattern is the kick is, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. For this, I didn't want to go with that. I wanted to go with something a little more loose and open. If you listen, the kick actually follows the snare pattern a little bit. It's not, instead of being 2, 3, 4, it only hits once on the downbeat, and then it's on the offbeat with the snare. If you listen. And then obviously, I wanted to keep building it. I added that bass. Actually, this is another part of the sample. The original sample has this little kind of a, I think it's like a Moog bass. But I didn't want that to be the main bass of the song. I wanted to be able to also sidechain it to the kick. So I did a low cut on that part of the sample, so you can still hear the bass, but it's not exactly, there's no sub in it. And then I layered it with this 808. I believe it's 808. Hold on. Yeah, it's an 808. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was a bass or 808. I couldn't remember. And it gives this really big full sound, and it just keeps going. It goes down and then up and down and then up, and it gives it really, like, it builds the beat a lot. It's almost building it for like a drop, right? It builds it for like a drop. But then cuts everything out except for the percussion and that bass, and that's all that's left. And obviously the vocals right there get filled in, and then it comes back. Now right here, I switch, obviously everyone, I switch to the Spanish verse right here. So far in this song, I haven't done anything really trap sound, and trap was also a really big part of my early influences and has been a big part of my production over the past couple of years. So I definitely wanted to include some trap sounds in there, and I decided to do it on the Spanish verse, because Spanish Latin trap is also very big, and it's a big part of what modern Latin music is. So I started off with this little hi-hat pattern. It's a very classic like a trap pattern. But what makes it different is if you look right here to the velocity, every other beat I turn down the velocity a little bit. So it's not just it's right? Yeah. Sorry. And added that snare. It's a little short punchy snare. And again, most of the song has been kind of an anti-drop song where there's not really a big drop yet, at least. So again, with this part, I didn't immediately bring in the kick. The kick is kind of delayed when it comes in. And the bass comes in. And if you notice, it's the same bass from earlier. And it's also the same kick. It's a different kick pattern. Actually, no, it's not. It's the same kick pattern. It's the same kick pattern and the same bass pattern. Same kick pattern, same bass pattern, but it sounds so different when you put it into this context. Because the whole song is almost half-timed now because of where the snare is. I also bring in those percussions. and it just makes it sound so open and like uh, just like spacey, I guess. Like there's a lot of just open space in that leaves so much room for the verse. Like I think it's the exact same mix on the vocals in the verse, in the Spanish verse than in the first half. It's the exact same mix, but to me it sounds so much clearer on that part, and you can really hear everything I'm saying because it just gets kind of quiet right there and open. It leaves a lot of space in the middle. Another reason for that being that I put a bit of a filter on that sample that's only on this part. That's what it sounds like. So it's like a low pass, a high pass, and it has some sort of melodic like crunching shit. I used Fruity Love Filter for it. I forgot what preset I used, but it has a really cool sound. It's just so open. It leaves so much space for the vocals right there, because that's the most important part of the song, at least lyrically, because it just comes out of nowhere and you want to be able to hear everything right there. Now obviously I've been talking about how I didn't want to do like a very like not generic but a very typical reggaeton beat. I didn't want to make it like a reggaeton song, but that's still a big part of my influence that I can't ignore, so obviously I had to bring that in this little beat switch. So I made this quick pattern. It's literally just the snare and the kick. I think a hat as well. It's just, let me remove just basic as pattern. What's really different is actually the bass pattern. This is the bass pattern that's only on this part of the song, and it's like completely different. It moves so much faster than the rest of the song, and this is the first actual like drop of the song, like proper drop, and that's why I brought in kind of this and it still has those, you can't really even hear it because the rest of the drums are so loud, but the perks are still right there in the background. To end it off, obviously end off the Spanish verse, it still has that same bass pattern, but I removed the drums just to kind of cool down from that big jump of energy. It kind of cools down and brings it back into the calmness of the rest of the song. And then back. So yeah, I mean, as far as the beat goes, it's honestly pretty simple. The beat's not too complicated at all, but there's just so many different sounds and influences in the beat that it just makes it sound so big and like so much is happening. But honestly, it's really simple. It's a really simple beat. I didn't do a whole lot. It just switches. It just switches a lot. There's a lot of beat switches and has so many different sounds in one. That's kind of a big part of what I want to do moving forward with a lot of my music and my production, is just bring in all of those influences, because I think there's a lot of sounds that people aren't necessarily open to, and I think they would be more open to if they gave it a chance, because most of the music in the world is a lot more similar than you might think, and the differences that we do have in the different genres, I think everyone could benefit from, appreciating those differences and using them in collaboration, because I think that's something we don't do enough and something we should do more, because when we make music together, like, we make the best music. That's when the best music is made. So that's what I want to do a lot more going forward. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I want to do more of these, more analyses I'll probably do another analysis for the vocals and not so much the mixing, but my choices in uh, certain effects and uh, my a vocal breakdown of the song. Uh, Go stream Home by August out on all platforms. Once again, this is my Cortez. I love y'all, appreciate y'all, and peace out.